Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the USAirsoft Videocast. I'm your host, Scott Hollenbeck.
And I'm your co-host, Connor Sherwin.
And here we like to tell you all the tips y'all need to know to stay safe out in the field and make yourself looking pretty all the time. All the reviews you like, the news that you need to know to stay ahead of everyone else. And just all together have fun on here and hear what y'all got to say about anything airsoft out in the world and what we should take a look at.
Today we're going to be going over some safety, some etiquette, several commonly used terms that you hear a lot on the field that some of the new players might not know. Cleaning, green gas versus propane.
News, deals, and promotions for other channels that have actually helped us out in the past. I'd like to give a big shout out to our sponsor, USAirsoft, who actually made it possible for us to do this type of thing. And the guys at Airsoft Medicine, Mark and Larry, they actually helped us out with a bunch of advice for us to actually get this kind of stuff started up. All the gear that we have here was just ideas that they gave us. Myself, I listen to them about every month. So the kind of things that you all see on the table is just things that a lot of viewers on that channel really liked. So I believe what we have here is something that can be of interest to just about everyone out there.
All right, let's get started here. So safety. At our field,
Safety is everything.
Safety goes without saying, of course, but rule number one on the field is to have fun, which goes hand in hand with safety. So we're going to go over some face and eye protection. Typical goggles for someone who doesn't wear glasses is something like this. Just a projectile-rated polycarbonate lens.
These are usually used for test shooting someone in your backyard or just dialing in certain sites and just having a little bit of fun. But I wouldn't recommend these most of the time on the actual field, seeing as they're not full eye seal. But what do you think, Connor?
I would have to agree. An example of full eye seal is something like this.
Seeing as it actually seals your eyes away from any possibility of actually getting hit.
It's actually got a rubber or a foam ring right here that seals up against your face. So if you get hit, a BB can't just ricochet back behind it and bounce around inside.
We've seen that too many times, and we don't want it happening to any one of you guys.
Then we've got, for those of us who wear glasses, we've got our
more protective eye cover
that fit on over glasses like this.
And it would get around the forehead area, so he can't actually have a ricochet go into his eye in that certain area. And having a pair of glasses underneath actually is a little bit more safe for you as well.
And you've got your side protection here, so a BB can't come in from the side and bounce around.
Yep. Then we have more of our face masking. Like, we have a full face mask complete over there, which you'll see more commonly in paintball, but it has made its way into airsoft, and for good reasons. You have complete seal all around your face, so there's no way you can get hit at all in the face, but you will still know when you get hit. It will be audible for you.
Yeah, it's very loud. It'll wake you up. You'll feel it hit the mask. Because getting hit anywhere in the face sucks. It hurts. If you can handle it, that's cool. But for,
more players out there, it'd be good to keep your teeth and not have to go to school or work with a big knot on your face.
Yeah, for kids that don't want to get hit in the face, you can wear something like this. They actually make paintball masks that cover your entire head that go wrap around, kind of around the back like that. This one's actually got foam right here, like what I was talking about earlier. Only problem with full eye seal protection that you'll run into a lot, and there's not really a whole lot you can do about it, is a huge fogging issue. Because it's sealed up against your face, there's not a very easy way for moisture and heat to escape from the lens. So as you start to sweat, when you start to play harder, it'll fog the lens up a lot. And
that's why we got all these vents and opening areas for you.
And they make anti-fog spray. All that does is kind of prolong the period that you don't fog.
It's not going to stop it completely, but it helps.
But as your body temperature rises, when you're getting more into it and you start to heat up, it just happens regardless of what you do. Another
It's Murphy's Law helping against you.
Another thing you can use is one of these.
These are mesh masks that you'll commonly see out in the field. I recommend these for your nose area and your mouth, but not for eyes, seeing as it cuts off before that. There are some that are complete mesh masks, but I prefer these smaller ones, seeing as they're not as bulky. I don't want to have to lose a tooth during any airsofting, but it's still going to happen to someone, and I really hate to see that happen. So I would recommend something like this to protect either your ears or your teeth.
And a downfall to these, while the mesh breathes a lot better and there's little to no fogging issue, I'm not going to say there's just not a fogging issue, but it cuts down on it a lot because the air from your mouth and your nose can escape through the mesh a lot easier. The downfall is, since the mesh is more open and it's more rigid, if a BB hits it just right and someone's using like a low quality BB, the BB can actually fragment and come through the mesh, which stings.
It'll take most of the impact out, but you'll still have the shattered BBs.
Yeah, and you'll get a mesh nose, like a red pattern in your nose.
Whenever you order these, they'll either come plain flat or oddly formed. I had mine show up to me flat, completely flat, and I had to form most of this myself. It fits me perfectly, but to other people it's too small for them. Their cheeks are pushed up. And I've even seen, we had one of our friends put this on, and his eyebrows were actually pushed up so weirdly that it looked like he was sad all the time. It was pretty funny to see.
And another thing you'll run into is wearing a mesh mask like that with safety goggles can be an issue because sometimes they don't want to fit because of the way it goes up over the top of your nose. It all just depends on how you form it. I see people out there that have no problem with it at all.
I have my problem with this face side shape of mine. I can't use these because they jumped out so far on my face that it is just anything that doesn't hit me straight on is going to hit me in the eye. So I do not use these when I'm using these. I prefer to use something more of the lines of this than use anything like those.
So apart from your face and eye protection, you'll hear it commonly referred to on the field as eye pro or face pro, is engagement distance. So one thing your field is more than likely going to go over with you anyway, but just so you have kind of more of an idea of what it is before you go into that. Engagement distance for, say, a pistol that shoots at lower velocities is
around like 290, 280 to the max of 320.
Yeah. Is the engagement distance is like
20 feet?
20 feet, something like that, before you start getting into safety kill range.
Safety, parlay, and everything like that.
Whereas for something like this, my DMR, which we'll cover in a minute as to what that is.
You're shooting about like, what, 560 with that? With the .2?
No, it's low fives.
Low 500s?
Something this powerful has to be restricted to fully automatic or
a semi-automatic.
Semi-automatic, or typically a lot of your bolt action snipers will be like that. This has a minimum of 50 feet, and it cannot be full auto.
Same thing would go for just a custom pistol such as the WE Cutlass here. The barrel is extended more than a regular M9 seen back here, and I fall under the same rule with that pistol as he does with his DMR.
And what happens with that is it all depends on the group you're with. The particular group that we play with lets me call safety kill if I'm too close for my engagement distance with this. They let me call safety kill. I'm also allowed to pull out my sidearm and use it up until 20 feet. But a lot of the people that I play with let me just call safety kill, and they realize that it probably is going to hit them if I choose to fire.
It's basic common knowledge.
Yeah, and a lot of it is just what you agree upon for the group you're playing with as to when you call it. But typically you call safety kill when you're so close to someone that if you shot them it would actually cause bodily injury to them.
such as if I'm this close to Connor, actually, if I'm this close to Connor, I would not fire at him. I would call either parlay, safety, or bang bang. If we're both on each other at the same time, I'm going to call parlay. We're going to part ways and go into different areas again and reset that. Just start in different spots, and we're just going to continue. Not as an actual death, but just as an understanding that we're too close, we wouldn't know who would do it, and they just part off. It's just what they would agree on.
As kind of a tiebreaker, sort of a situation to where it avoids a lot of arguments as to, you know, I shot you first. No, you shot me. No, I shot you first. No, I shot you first.
It's a personal agreement that would just call peace at that point.
Yeah, and safety kill is more for...
They don't see you, but you see them. You're about... If Connor is faced the wrong way, firing on my own team members, and I come across him and he does not hear me at all and doesn't turn around, I would just call bang bang or safety kill if I'm this close to him or such. And that would count as his death, and he would have to return to his spawn point or stay out of the game.
And, okay, so that's safety kill. We've got muzzle velocity.
Muzzle velocity is determined on how fast your weapon of choice is actually firing.
Yes, and that's typically done with
.2s.
A .20 gram BB is the standard they use for measuring with a chronograph. Some fields actually measure in joules, which is the actual kinetic energy the BB is exerting. Because, say I put a .2 gram BB in this, and it shoots 500 feet per second. But I put a .28 gram BB in it, which I normally run in it, and it shoots around 443.
But it's still going to hit with immense force.
It's going to hit with the same amount of kinetic energy. The BB's going to travel slower. It might not travel as far, but when it hits you, it's going to have the same kind of a force behind it.
You will feel it. Trust me, I've had a golf ball pretty much on my shoulder from one of our players that actually customizes every single gun that he owns.
So, that's muzzle velocity. We've covered eye protection, face protection, basic safety kill. These are treated as real firearms. They don't fire bullets, they fire BBs. However,
if you go outside with one of these and just wave it around or cause a crime with these, it will be considered a real firearm.
Yes, and this is a sport where you are pointing guns at people with intent to shoot them. You're not killing them, you're not trying to hurt them. It's the same thing as paintball, basically, but they do look and feel just like real weapons. And to the untrained eye,
they will suspect it as a real firearm. I've had that happen to me with every single weapon I've owned, and you probably have as well.
Yes, so treat them as real weapons. So don't point them at someone, even if it's not loaded, even if the battery's not plugged in. Don't point them at anyone unless you actually intend to shoot them. Don't fire them in the house, because BBs are capable of causing damage to, glass objects and TVs and windows.
One thing I will point out is whenever you're using a green gas pistol, remember, we'll go over this later on, but green gas is propane, and propane is, propane. You know it's flammable. You know it can blow up. If you have any type of fire in the house, any source of heat, and you're using green gas, expect something to happen, because you should know by now that propane is going to explode if it is triggered to. So I would not recommend using a green gas pistol with propane or just green gas at all in your house. Don't do it. It's not smart. It's very dangerous. And if you're using straight up propane like I do, it's going to smell. And it's going to smell because of one reason. They add the additive in propane, so you know, so whenever propane is leaking in your house, you will know. It will smell like decaying flesh or just a fart. So you will know. That's just the whole point of knowing that if you have propane in your house, don't light anything, get out, call police or whoever can help you with that. Green gas doesn't have that additive in it to make it smell. So if it is anywhere in your house, let's say you have a can that is leaking, you won't know about it, and it could cause a problem. But you will need green gas if you're going into a CQB area, because they will not allow propane due to the smell. And I've heard before that green gas can actually drop your feet per second and isn't as reliable as actual propane is. Even though it's theoretically it is the same thing, I believe it's something to do with the additive.
I'm not sure exactly what the logic is behind that. Maybe it's because, well, we'll cover green gas later. We're going to get into etiquette now. Some things to remember is, like I said before, the main rule is have fun. If you can't have fun with it, why do it? One of the main things is with paintball, you know you're hit because you get a paint splat on you somewhere, and it's kind of hard to deny that. Even if you wipe it off, you've got a stain there.
We will admit, paintball does hurt more when you get hit. You will know when you get hit.
Yes, but Airsoft is based a lot more upon the honor system, and the way it always works is, this is at every field I've ever been to. Some fields might differ slightly. Our field counts ricochets as hits if it hits with enough force for you to notice.
Ricochet.
If, say, a BB drops from a tree and you don't notice it, but someone sees it,
it hits you, you're dead.
Typically we count that as a hit if any BB hits you, purely because it just keeps it straightforward. It avoids a lot of arguments over who hit who and a lot of fighting. It just, you're hit, you're out.
It might seem unfair, but think about it. If it happened to someone else and you couldn't get that guy, if it landed on him and you saw that happen, you would point that out too.
Yeah, and it just keeps things going. It avoids a lot of arguments and quarrels with other people, keeps the game a lot more friendly. Which brings me to my next point. Always call your hits. The biggest problem we have on our field is there's so many people out there that just don't call their hits. You can watch, I've got a telescopic sight and my gun hits pretty hard. And you can see your BB hit. And if you watch it bounce off someone's head or their clothes, and you can hear it, but they obviously don't call their hit. Sometimes you'll even see them react to it. Like they get hit and they kind of jump back a little bit.
And they'll flinch and they'll feel that area and they'll just be like, no one saw that, and you'll walk away.
Yeah. That's when it's, typically you can yell, you can call them on it. Don't be mean about it. Don't be rude. Just
don't shout out and go up to the guy and be like, hey, I hit you.
Yeah, just politely say, call your hits when you're hit. Because that person might not necessarily know that.
Always keep a mag of .4s. Don't do that, but whenever I know I hit someone, and a lot of players will do this, but sometimes they'll go a little overboard with it. When I know I hit a player and I still have them in sight, I'll keep shooting until they will call their hit.
It's typically frowned upon to deliver messages like that, but typically the ref will actually go over and talk to that player. Especially there's one player in particular on our field that a ref had to actually get involved because there were 5 separate people that hit this individual and they all saw it happen, and the ref had to go over and tell him. But to avoid a lot of confrontation like that, just always call your hits.
And talk to the game master at all times. If there's any problem with you and another player, if you don't want to have any confrontation, which is a great thing if you don't have any confrontation at all, tell the game master, because they'll deal with it. They know they're trying to make it good for everyone else, so one player is not worth everyone.
And that's what they're there for. The game master is there to oversee. A lot of times they're called the referees. They're there to ensure that everyone is following the rules, and they can't watch everyone. So as much as you can tell them what's going on, and tell them to go and keep an eye on someone if you've got, several instances of them not calling their hits, and they've been told several times by a player to call their hits when they're hit. If you keep seeing them not do that, you can, by all means, alert the game master, and they'll go talk to them, because that's what they're there for. And that's the biggest gripe that I hear from a lot of people is, how do you know when you're hit? How do you know when someone's out? Well,
it's not as good as paintball because you won't call your hit.
Yeah, it's an honor system. It's all about integrity, which is, 9 times out of 10, everyone on the field will call their hits. Very
rarely do we have to deal with that.
Yeah, but there are times when you do deal with it, and it's important that you handle it correctly so you don't start a confrontation with someone, because there's nothing worse than having someone angry at you
And
while
with a gun.
yeah, while they're pointing a weapon at you and they're angry at you. That's just a bad situation. So again, call your hits. I can't stress that enough. That's a big thing on the field.
I know I was about to say something. I always forget.
Be aware of your muzzle. Muzzle awareness. Treat your weapon like it's actually got bullets in it and capable of killing someone. Because you don't want to be standing there listening to the rules of the game and have your weapon go off 5 feet away from someone and hurt them.
I've had that happen before, and I can admit to that. When we were testing something in the safe zone, and the safe zone you're supposed to have mags out, nothing in your chamber. So after they called the whistle for the game to actually end, I would drop my mag, put it in my dump pouch or in a pouch, and fire whatever round is in my actual chamber. I did do that with my M4, but I did not do it with the Cutlass over here. I had the magazine still in and a round chambered, and we were fidgeting with a suppressor, like the smaller one right down here. We were messing with it, and I must have pulled the trigger during that. It actually went off while we were putting the suppressor on. Thank goodness it actually hit the table at such an angle it flew over everyone else and became a safe round after that, after it hit the ground at that point. But that is something that I've had happen before, and I apologize for that. I shouldn't have had that happen to me. I should have immediately put my pistol on safety while I was in the safe zone.
Another thing that kind of revolves around safety but is also part of etiquette is it goes along with the eye protection. While you're on the field, while you're in the game area, which our field has a designated line that you cross that from when you're in the safe zone to when you're in the game area. Well, once you're in the game area, regardless, always keep your eye protection on. If you have to take it off for any reason, alert the game master and alert everyone around you. Wait until everybody takes a knee, or however your field chooses to do it. Our field calls blind man.
And as soon as you hear blind man, everyone on the field will start calling blind man. It's to make sure no one else gets hurt, or the person that is hurt doesn't get worse.
Everyone puts their guns on safety. They take a knee, and it can be for anything from fogging to somebody fell and broke their leg. You call
and it can last
man.
from like 30 seconds to we need to end the game right now.
Yeah. It all depends, but you yell blind man, everybody on the field knows what it means. They're told. You do not remove your eye protection until everybody is taking a knee. Typically, the game masters will have walkie-talkies to communicate with each other. They'll relay the message down the field if it can't be heard.
Our game master Adam will yell across the field very loudly.
Yes, and that's when you can take your goggles off, defog, do whatever you have to do.
Another instance for me is whenever I was just trying out Airsoft about 2 years ago. Whenever my goggles would fog, which are the little black ones that are over there on that side, I would have a problem with fogging on those a lot. And whenever I had that happen to me, I would actually pull them up just a bit and wipe them off with my gloves and then return them. I thought that was not such a big deal until I had someone actually hit in the eye on my field. They were not doing that, but it happened, and that was enough to scare me into never doing that again. I immediately bought one of these and bought new goggles, which I will also be upgrading again, so I don't have to ever have to deal with that ever again. There is no reason to take off your goggles or eye protection at all on the field, unless something very, very uniquely happens and everyone knows about it and is stop firing.
Beware of your boundaries. A lot of times our field's divided into 3 separate fields, all in a line. Sometimes we'll have full field games that it'll take up all 3 fields. Other times we'll have it where it'll only take up 2 of the fields or 1 of the fields. And a lot of the times people don't know what the boundary is, and they'll go outside of the field and try to shoot you from outside the field.
You can see that in our last video of the Connor Diaries that this one was actually going through.
Yes.
We were actually so confused about a lot of rules in it. I believe it was called Chaos,
Yeah,
it was Chaos.
It was a horrible game type. But you never know until you try it. But it could have been cool, but it had an objective. But
it was an objective we couldn't find. There was a lot of people out of the boundary lines that were firing, but their kills did not count, seeing as they were not playing fairly in a way. They knew about it after that, and they switched up their tactics, and which we appreciate that y'all did.
So that's boundaries.
When you walk out of those boundary lines, you might as well consider yourself dead.
Yes.
As Game Master Adam would always say, we're going to have all these quotes from Game Master Adam now.
Yeah.
Your head explodes. You're dead.
You get struck by lightning.
That's it. God smites you.
Yes. So now we're going to move on to some terms. A lot of
terms that you hear everywhere. When I was first starting, these terms were blowing my mind, and I just learned about 3 of them about a month ago that I was surprised I didn't know, and a lot of people were surprised that I didn't know.
A lot of the words you hear is when someone refers to something as GBB or AEG. Now, GBB stands for gas blowback, which for something like this, you've got, looks just like a real M9. However, the slide can pull back, and it does so under the propulsion of propane gas.
Or green gas, which we don't use.
Yes. So when it fires, it actually simulates the real action of a semi-automatic pistol. And it's pretty loud.
It's very satisfying to have it happen because it's added realism to your airsoft gear, which Airsoft is becoming more and more about. That's pretty much the reason why we have Airsoft today, is to make it as realistic but still safe. The most realistic it can be, but still being safe. That's pretty much the whole point of Airsoft nowadays.
Yes. Now,
the gas that what we were talking about, the green gas or propane, will most likely be housed, for pistols, most likely housed in your magazine. On the bottom there will be a little area, a little hole somewhere in there that you actually insert your gas into.
Even on most gas blowback, they even have gas blowback rifles. There's one guy
AKs,
on our
M4s, L96s.
Mm-hmm. There's one guy on our field that's actually got a gas blowback AK. Just things to be aware of with that. Gas blowback tends to not work very well unless you have like CO2 gas blowback.
If you're using anything besides CO2, like if you're using green gas or propane and it's in the cold, let's say, even the 50s or 40s.
Cold days, the gas does not want to stay under pressure. The cold greatly affects it, and
that's just due to the metal shrinking because of cold.
And it just won't perform up to your expectations. So that's something to be mindful of if you're in an area that gets cold a lot. Now, AEG stands for Automatic Electric Gun. Which covers everything from this, which is not fully automatic, it's semi-automatic, which means one pull of the trigger yields one shot. And then you let off the trigger and pull it again and it shoots again.
Or something more on the lines like what we got here.
That is an AEG. It has semi-automatic and fully automatic, which...
The battery will be housed, for mine, is in the back in the crane stock, which we'll also be talking about in a bit.
Yes. Some M4s, the battery is housed in here inside the wrist, which we're going to cover next, actually. Now, AEG means it's got a motor and it's got a gearbox. We're going to go over that too, what's inside of a gearbox and things like that. But those are your basic terms. You've also got your Springer, which is a gun that's powered purely off of springs, similar to a Nerf gun, where you have to pull a bolt back or pull a slide back for every shot you take, which for some sniper rifles, that's how they work, mimicking real steel versions.
It's for that good realism.
However, some of your cheaper Walmart pistols that you get that are made of plastic, you pull it back and it shoots 1 BB and it doesn't shoot very hard.
And they won't last you for very long.
Yeah, they're more of a novelty. But a lot of Springers can actually hit pretty hard. I've got a mark behind my ear from a guy that had a spring-powered sniper rifle. And he got me from quite a distance and hit me right here. I've got a pretty good welt. But the RIS, you hear, is actually
I'll cap that point too.
It actually stands for Rail Integration System. We'll have a close-up picture of this right here. And basically it just allows you to attach various different things to your weapon to make it more user-friendly or make it more tactical. Like for instance, this one's actually got a flashlight attached to it, and it's got an angled foregrip to make it more comfortable on your hands. You can attach sights like this one has, scopes like this one, pretty much anything you can think of.
If you want to add a grenade launcher that has a bayonet, plastic bayonet attached to that too, or have a, if it's even possible, mount a crossbow underneath it like we've been talking about as a joke.
Basically anything. They make airsoft grenade launchers. They make airsoft master keys, which is basically a shotgun. Grenade launchers are basically shotguns in the airsoft world. It just shoots a cluster of BBs.
Which we have one.
You know, I put a flashlight on mine, and on the other side I've got a laser. You can put sling mounts on here. The list goes on and on and on. We'd be here for hours just talking about all the different things you can mount to a rail.
That would be the basic M4 wrist system, or
yes.
Something you might hear is Daniel Defense. They make some great wrist systems that y'all should take a look at if you're interested.
A lot of them, some of them come with it already on, like this one has it already on. My DMR here had it already installed. This one, however, has got a wooden grip, which you can actually buy tactical grips like this that have a wrist system on them, and they install in place of this. Those are available through websites like evic.com, Airsoft GI, sites like that. Typically anywhere you buy your gun, if you order it online, there's accessories for it.
There sure will be.
They
They even have wrists for, I don't know if it's really wrists, but rails that you can find for even pistols, like this HFC M9. You'll have about a 3-inch rail on the bottom, but that is pretty essential for flashlights or lasers, or if you want to really be unique, throw on a foregrip and just have fun with that.
Now, you've got your, while I've got this here, there's multiple different kinds of suppressors, which is this right here. Typically they're installed, sometimes people will install them just because they look cool and they make the gun look more tactical or stealth. Mine, on my DMR, I actually have it installed for the purpose of concealing an extended inner barrel. Right here. And that's just to protect it, prevent damage to it if I hit it up against something. Because this is pretty much the most important part of your gun other than a working gearbox or piston assembly. This slides on. This one's called a QD suppressor, or quick disconnect. It slides on, you push it in, and it's on. It's not going anywhere.
You can carry it by the suppressor and not have a problem. The only thing you're going to hear shaking is his high cap.
Yes. Now, high cap stands for high capacity, which is
about anything about 180 rounds over, right?
Yes. They make, like the Echo 1. Echo 1 actually makes a minigun, which is actually pretty terrifying. It has a 1,700 round high cap mag. A high cap typically winds. The P90 version has a little wheel under here, which is kind of irritating, but if you get one that's good, you wind it all the way and you never have to wind it again until it's empty.
They also have nowadays, was it flash mags?
Yes, they have what's called a flash mag.
We don't have one of those here, do we?
No.
Flash mag is a little bit unique. They would hold about, I believe, 300 range of BBs in the magazine, and instead of a winding wheel at the bottom, you have a door that opens at the bottom, pretty much like how a high cap has a door on top. And once you open that door, you have a pull string, and after you pull it about 3 times, the whole mag will be good. 300 rounds, done.
This is your more commonly seen high cap mag, which this is on my AK. It just has a little wheel on the bottom, kind of like a disposable camera. You just wind it until you hear it
change its tone.
Yeah, until you hear it do this, it's wound. It's wound all the way. If you keep doing that, you'll break it eventually. It'll just wear things out. but that means it's under the maximum amount of tension it can be under. When it starts to misfeed and starts to dry fire, then you just wind it again.
That's when you just keep on doing it again.
And then you'll hear it make a noise. I don't want to do it right now because it'll spray BBs everywhere. But it kind of sounds like everything all at once is just starting to whir. You'll feel it, and it just makes a high-pitched whining noise. It's very quick. Just sounds like gears spinning. That means your mag is out of ammo and it cannot wind any more ammo into it. Now this is a mid-cap mag. This is purely under spring tension. They hold...
Mine hold about 170.
Yeah. This one holds...
I should have BBs in one.
I believe this one holds about 80. I could be wrong. I can't remember. Basically, you can load them one at a time, but that's really annoying, and you'll get a blister on your finger from loading 170 rounds into the magazine over and over and over and over. But basically, you just load them in, and it fills up, and then once it's out, it's out. You can't wind it. You just have to put a new one in. You have your speed loader.
Which, that one is way out of date, but
yeah,
I
this
like
is
it.
One example of one. You just put the end over it like this.
Backwards.
And the BBs go inside of it. Yeah.
Yeah, whatever. You know.
Yeah. But
Would you like me to demonstrate?
anyway, after I'm done being smarter than the average
Fair.
speed loader. Anyway, you get the idea. You fill it up, and then you just use this as a plunger, and it just feeds the BBs down in. And then if it's not full, you do it again for however many it needs. When it stops, it's full. They make other speed loaders that actually look very similar to this. They're about this size. They also make them that are kind of...
I've seen M4 styled...
yeah, they're actually very similar to an M4 magazine. They're shaped like it. They have a little plunger here, and you just fill them with BBs, stick the end on your magazine, and just pump it until it's full. Those are typically what you'll see more. You'll see those a lot more commonly now.
They're very cheap to find, too. I can get a speed load for $2.
And a lot of your guns will actually come with one. My Echo 1 P90 actually came with a speed loader. This one came with a speed loader. It all just depends.
My SEMA M4 did not come with one.
Yeah, typically a lot of the guns you get that have a mid-cap magazine standard will come with a speed loader. Not all of them, but some of them do. Now, real cap magazines.
Real cap magazines are used more for milsim. I've heard about them. We have a whole team actually on our field. It's a very small team, I believe, but they run all real cap magazines for their M4s. They only put exactly 30 rounds into all their magazines. That's for the most realistic feel that they can get that's outside of an operation. But at high-end operations like Irene or anything that's line claws, you tend to see real caps there mostly. They will not allow high caps there.
Now, parlay, as we said before, is basically you...
You both agree to just walk away and restart your killing.
Yeah, it's sort of like a tiebreaker. It's kind of like an old-fashioned duel, sort of, where you can't decide on who killed who first, so you just go back and you have your own little one-on-one battle, basically, which is how we do it. Tends to work out pretty well. First person hit is the one that gets hit. So the easiest way, most definitive way to settle an argument. It avoids having a third party. Just a very easy tiebreaker.
We forgot to cover NBB, pneumatic blowback, non-blowback, which would probably, I've seen that the most of the time on CO2.
Yeah, a lot of CO2 guns have non-blowback, where you just kind of see the hammer going, or maybe the hammer doesn't even move. It just uses CO2 and shoots.
I've seen someone on our field has a Tokyo Marui HK25 or 45, I'm not sure anymore, and it's quiet already. It's non-blowback, so that's the only thing that moves on there when you pull a trigger is the hammer. And it's quiet already, but once he slaps on this specific suppressor onto it, it's dead silent. All I can hear is doop, doop, That's it. And he uses that way better than some of the pistols on here.
And they also make, electric blowback, which is an AEG, but it's also got it's also got
it's neat
the
feature,
bolt,
but
the bolt fires as well, which simulates blowback, but a lot of times it's just not very good.
I know King Arms makes a pneumatic. Is it pneumatic or is it electric? It's electric blowback. They make them for their Galils, and I believe they stopped doing that because it was just a problem. You can hold the charging handle and still fire; it wouldn't cause any problems, but it was just
it just adds an unnecessary amount of complexity and noise to your gun, unless that's what you're going for, is to be kind of realistic and
I want a Galil.
You want the action to be the same.
I want a Galil. Galil.
But basically, he wants a Galil. A dead rag,
which we have one on the table here, is a Evic dead rag, which is just a red rag that will stand out. Say if we're playing attack and defend. Attack and defend, let me just break that down to you. Imagine two teams. You got about 4 or 5 on one, and you got a whole group of people on the other side. Those 4 or 5 people either have 1 life and that's it, or 2 lives and they have 2 medics or so. They have to survive for about a specific moment of time, or 30 minutes or an hour. If it's an hour, that's going to suck. But if it's a 30-minute game, you only get hit once, and that's it. So let's say you have a whole team trying to kill you all, and you do get hit, and you're trying to leave that area so you can go back to the safe zone, or just watch the rest of the game without having to actually get hit anymore.
Yeah, you want to have something visible that you can wave, or a lot of people just put it on their head. Something that stands out. Red stands out a lot against a forest background.
It would just stand out, like if hunters when they wear orange so they don't get shot by friendly.
You can get special monogrammed dead rags like this, or you can simply use like a red shop rag or a red piece of
anything that would really stand out.
Anything like that.
And you can get these for fairly cheap. I actually picked up this one from Evic for only $1. So that's enough said. And they already have newer ones that are actually pretty much like towels. They have the same fabric and such. But when I was saying about the attack and defend, last game I was playing in one small little hole. And no one else could really get to me, but I could see just about everything that was happening. And after about, I'm not going to really gloat on this, I was getting to about 17 or 18. We had a lot of people jumping over the walls and knowing where I was. So after about 2 safety kills that I was able to get before they saw me, one did get to me.
I remember that one.
But they were still shooting. They were still shooting at us. They didn't get me, thank goodness. But I did have a dead rag on me. I did not use it, but I did walk away. But if I wanted to walk in a different direction, I would have probably pulled this out and shown it out the hole that I was firing out of. So they would know that I'm dead, don't continue to shoot at me, I'm leaving. That would be a great instance to use your dead rag.
I think that was the game that I was like 3 seconds away from throwing a Thunderbee at you. I was right on the other side of the wall and I had a Thunderbee ready.
That was a different game. I was talking about the one that we just went to last Saturday. But that I remember too. I did not do as good as that one.
Alright, so as we were talking about guns before, gearbox, batteries, you've got... I'll go with this one. It's fairly simple to break down. So you've got...
Breakdown?
I don't even need that, actually. With this one, you've got your upper receiver and your lower receiver, your magazine, and your outer barrel is this right here. This piece here, and this here is your inner barrel.
Think of the outer barrel as the mock barrel. It
Yes.
would be what you'd see, just like how you see the inner barrel sticking out of the outer. The outer barrel on this would be this gray part. I wouldn't even call it silver, seeing as I did this by myself. This gray part would be the outer barrel. Inside of that would be typically a brass barrel, unless you upgrade. And the brass barrel that's the inside is your inner barrel.
Now with this one, you want to make sure you take your magazine out. With any AEG, you're going to have some BBs fall out as soon as you take the magazine out. I actually cleared this one before, but since there is quite some distance, there will be 3 or 4 BBs that fall out, sometimes even more, sometimes less.
If you're not complete, even if your magazine won't feed on a mid cap, yeah, I will still have about 3 or 4 BBs that just fall out. That's just from the distance of the magazine to the actual hop-up system.
Yes, which the way this one breaks down is you push this pin right here. This M4 does the same thing. Some of them you push the pin on the back and it pivots down. This one slides apart like so, and it just kind of pulls apart like that. And we've separated the upper receiver from the lower receiver. Now, when I turn it over like this, I slide, take the bolt out, I slide my hop-up unit and my inner barrel,
which is way too long,
out, and it's all one unit. Now this comes apart, and inside of here you have a rubber sleeve, which there's a picture of it right here, where that is what gets pushed down into the barrel and gives your BB hop-up, which is a backspin similar to the way a golf ball works. The backspin on the BB creates a low pressure area on the top and a high pressure area on the bottom, essentially giving the BB lift, which stops it from dropping off as soon as it exits your barrel. It actually, if it's set correctly, it'll float. You'll see it actually float through the air. If it's set too high, you'll shoot and it'll curve straight up.
And too little and it will just dip down.
Yeah.
You just got to find the sweet spot in your hop-up.
This is called your hop-up chamber. We'll have a close-up picture of it. And you adjust it for... It actually adjusts for the weight of your BB. So if you're running a 0.2 gram BB and you decide to put a 0.3 in it, the 0.3 is going to drop. You have to adjust it for that heavier BB so it gets more lift. Now if you go from the 0.3 setup to running a 0.2, that BB is just going to shoot straight up out of the barrel. Yeah, that's basically it for hop-up units. Some of them have a wheel on the front that adjusts it. This one is side adjusting.
Like most M4s would be the side adjusting thing. For AKs, it would usually be a slider.
Yes.
And for just about every single KWA I've ever heard of, they have a specific hop-up system that they actually include every tool in for every single weapon they pretty much sell, that you'll have to use to actually adjust the hop-up, which are amazing hop-ups. They are KWA.
This one is a metal hop-up unit. Some of your guns will come with a plastic hop-up unit. Depending on what you do to your gun, this one, it's good that it's got a metal hop-up unit because it's running very high FPS. Plastic hop-up units don't tend to last under those conditions. They'll fall apart because they're plastic. Air seal is a big term that you hear. That's basically the efficiency of the piston. Right here is your cylinder and your air nozzle. And the air shoots out of the air nozzle and propels the BB out of the barrel. Now, if there's too much air getting past the piston, it won't be very consistent and your BBs will fly all over the place. The more consistent you are,
the more accurate you will be.
Yes.
Using the wrong pistons, bushings, and wrong barrels are all ways of losing the FPS and losing your accuracy. If you put an M14 barrel that is made for WE into, let's say, a SEMA M4 like this one, I'm going to be shooting in ridiculous ways. It's just unimaginable. I'll try shooting straight, and I'll be shooting far off to the left just as soon as it comes out of the barrel. I've had that happen to me. It was a dumb idea. It was a failed attempt. Doesn't that sound great?
Just slides together like so. Push that pin back in, and you're back together.
Now that we got all the lower receiver and the internals out of the way, we have stocks.
Yes. This one has a full stock. You cannot adjust it. It doesn't fold. It doesn't do anything. On this one, the battery is very large. It's a LiPo battery, which stands for lithium polymer, which is right here. And it runs at 11.1 volts, which is very high for these, and it's got a lot of current going through it, which results in very high trigger response. And it's generally recommended for the more powerful springs. If you put a more powerful spring in your gun, which we'll get into in another episode as to upgrading your guns and what to do there. If you run a more powerful spring, basically it's harder for the motor to pull it back, so it needs more power. So you're going to put a heavier battery in it. A lithium battery is a lot more stable. You do need a special charger for it, but it puts out a lot more current through the motor, and you get a lot faster trigger response and a lot less stress on everything.
On this one, we have a crane stock that is also retractable. Being as a crane stock, it's going to be most rifles I've seen that are with the crane stock have their batteries actually put into the back. I like this myself, seeing that I don't have to take apart my wrist system every time to actually change out the battery, charge it, or anything that has to do with the battery. So back here, it's pretty simple. All I have to do is pop off this butt plate that are pushed down by these two tabs. This will pop out, and the battery will be easy to take apart. Take off. Don't take apart your batteries. Take off the actual connectors, and then you can charge it and then throw it back in here, and that's it. The only cons I see about this is you get a lot of wobble with the crane stock. Mine is, this gun is about a year old, but it's still going right. All the problem I seem to have is my dust cover. Won't reveal anymore. I actually have to take the whole part, the gun, pop it down, put it all back together, and adjust my hop up that way. But the only con I see with this is shaking, and if I wiggle this around a lot, you will hear the battery wiggle around. So if I'm trying to be stealthy, I better be very slow at it.
And very similar to a crane stock, is an M733. You'll hear them commonly referred to as a crane stock, just because it's easier to say. It's very similar principle. It's
a crane stock that doesn't have a battery in it. It's just the simple sliding stock, which I can't.
That one sticks a little bit. But.
There we go. So it's just your basic retractable stock. It does not fold. It just goes back and forth on the buffer tube.
Very commonly found on a lot of your M4 platforms.
On this PMC, it's just neat to have.
It's very convenient because typically AK butt stocks seem to be kind of short. For someone like me, I'm 6 feet tall. It's rather short to have up against. You know, you kind of hug it kind of close.
I don't really like AKs that much for just it being too small. They're neat to have. I really want to get a few and have a little surprise sooner or later with a specific AK that I'm trying to get put together at the moment, but you'll see that sooner or later. But for this, I like the PMC idea with the actual M733 idea, because now it's not short anymore for me. I could actually use this and not have a problem with it. The other stocks you might see, like Connor's AK that he's holding right now, one's a side folding stock.
You'll see AKs with this one they call a skeleton stock or side folder. And that means you push this button. The G36 platform has this a lot too. You push it and it hinges and clips up to the side of the gun for easier CQB, which is close quarters battle, or CQC. And it unfolds the same way, and you're ready for that.
These shorter stocks are pretty much just made so you can get into closer areas much easier and much more efficiently, seeing as now he's just cut down the size of his weapon. Whenever you can do that, that is essential to anything. You can get into areas easier, you can get into vehicles and out of vehicles very easily.
Makes you more maneuverable, you can get through trees, it's quieter, it's held in a lot closer. The big thing you'll have with a lot of these side-folding metal stocks is
Some wobble.
they kind of ring a little bit, especially on the AKs. They ring a lot, and they call it cowbell because it's kind of hard to sneak with a cowbell on your gun. But
it's great for also putting them away. Let's say if you have a box and you're filling it with a few other guns. If I had 5 AKs and they didn't have retractable or side-folding stocks, that would be kind of a pain. But if they had 5 AKs that looked like that and I needed to put them in a box, that would help very efficiently.
And then another common kind of stock you see a lot on AKs actually, it's actually very common to see on the AKs, is an underfolder or a bottom folder, which we'll show you in a picture.
Right here. My favorite.
Which, as you can see, it just folds underneath the gun. Similar principle to the side folder, but it tucks out of the way. Same thing.
What do we got next? Barrel block, hop up. We went over hop up.
Yes, we've got barrel blocks, which I haven't seen anyone at our field use one of those. But it's a good thing to use. It's a good safety feature, good practice to get into. It's anything that slides over the end of the barrel, so if your gun should happen to accidentally go off,
Like mine.
there's something to stop the BB.
Or at least slow it down to a point where it won't be very painful at all, or if it'll just feel like...
Yeah. Sometimes your guns come with them. My DMR came with one, but I can't use it anymore because it was for the outer barrel, not the actual suppressor that goes on it.
I think it would be the size of a 2-liter bottle.
You could take a lot of paintball guns have them. It's just like a nylon sleeve that goes over the barrel with elastic straps. You could use that in the same way, and it would just prevent anything from coming out of the barrel if it accidentally goes off. It's a very good safety feature. It also kind of lets people know that, hey, this gun is fake.
Yes. If I'm transporting a weapon to my car, I would not... Obviously, I would put it in a bag, but let's just say there's an instance where I do not have that bag with me. I would put a barrel block over it, because if it's brightly colored, they would know, okay, it's just Airsoft. My neighbors know that I do have Airsoft, so if they ever see me going into the car and I do not have something in a case, they at least know that I have Airsoft. It's a great thing to let your neighbors know that you do have Airsoft, for them not to overreact whenever they see it and possibly call the police or local authorities against you.
Now, we're going to get into touch on different kinds of BBs. We're going to talk about bio and non-bio.
Let's break it down very basically so we can get most of it out of the way, because most of the BBs that you'll find are just falling under these two categories. Unless you manage to really want to buy the paintball marker BBs, which...
Or they have them that are dusted with chalk, that
they will not allow you to use it in most fields.
They're not recommended just because you're putting an abrasive inside your barrel. It's not a good thing to do.
They tend to actually break in more high-powered weapons like Connor's DMR or in any of my pistols here.
Oh, that's another term. DMR stands for Designated Marksman's Rifle, which is a term typically used on something like this that's semi-automatic, not bolt action. Typically a sniper rifle is bolt action, one shot, then you have to pull a lever back and chamber another one. This one just does it one right after the other, and they call it a DMR.
DMRs would be from Connor's, it's not an M4, it's
no, it's a
AR-10?
It's an SR-25, SR-25 derivative. They call it the GR-25. This is the G&G version called the GR-25.
More would be probably your M14s. You can turn those into DMRs. You can make a G3 into a DMR, or just if you really put some money and really customize out your M4 like mine down here, you can make a really mean DMR with that.
A lot of M16 platforms use it too. Now, bio and non-bio. Bio means biodegradable, which after a certain period of time they'll compost.
And just disappear.
Yeah. Biodegradable BBs are required at most of your fields that are in an outside environment. Like our field is a mesquite thicket. It's in the woods. You have to have biodegradable BBs because if animals eat them, it won't really harm them.
Now, a non-biodegradable BB is used more in a CQB field. Now, most CQB fields will not allow biodegradable BBs, seeing as it makes a mess and it actually makes it difficult to actually clean up. So, non-biodegradable BBs are just basic BBs. Make sure whenever you're buying any BB that you're making sure that they're precision-made BBs. Do not go to your local department store and buy BBs for any high-end airsoft guns or anything that you expect to keep for a while.
Yes, and a lot of the BBs that guns come with,
throw them out.
I just don't trust. Stay away from any BB that is a .12. Those are plastic. They have a lot of air bubbles in them. You shoot them out of basically anything besides a little cheap spring-powered gun, and they're going to fragment and damage it.
Whenever you find those BBs in there and they're not KWA or precision type or ICS or anything that you really, really expect wouldn't be good. Like, I got BBs for my SEMA M4 here. I threw them on the ground, flipped them off, and told them to go f***
I typically use the EVIC ammo. That's been working really well for me. They come in .2, .23, .25,
8, 3, 3.2, 3.5, all the way to 4.8s, I think.
Yeah, something along those lines.
And they even have the Japanese grade 8mm BBs, which are usually used for your Marussian specific Marussian or Tokyo Marine BBs because they're Japanese specific BBs.
Yes.
And those are expensive.
But non-bios are what a lot of your tracer BBs are, and those are typically 12s. So don't use those unless you want to damage something in a high-powered airsoft gun.
Because they're not actually made for your barrel very well. They won't fit properly, and as you're being shot, they will scrape up your barrel or just break and cause serious damage to your piston or your barrel.
A lot of the very low-quality ones, you can actually see a casting seam on them, and those are very bad. That affects the flight path, and it'll score the inside of your barrel, and they'll jam. A lot of them, a test you can do is take them outside onto like concrete or metal, put the BB in some tape, and hit it with a hammer. And if it crushes out flat, then it's seamless, and that's what you want. If it tends to split in half, if you see them like break in half, they have seams, which they'll fly kind of funny, and because one side can be heavier than the other, and it'll greatly affect their flight pattern. Sometimes they can come apart in your barrel. And
the seam itself can actually scratch your barrel, which is a very determining factor if your barrel is clean, scratch, or just precision made. We would recommend, if you're doing any upgrades to any of your weapons, buy Angel Custom, I believe. I've tried them out before. They're really well made. And you can buy them on EVIC and a few other great stores.
EVIC carries a good variety of Angel Custom stuff.
Yep, and any size too. You can find one for your pistol that's 7 feet long if you really wanted to.
Yeah. So, the news. New products that have come out or are coming out at the moment.
Well, let's bring up the news right on the screen and see what we got here.
Yeah, we've got pictures here for you.
It looks like the first thing that we have on our list is something that actually shocked me and actually really makes me think that I want to get one now. And that is the WE MP5K, also called the Apache. I'm guessing they had to change it for licensing. And it's a very neat little gun. I actually really like it. Seeing as it's gas blowback, seeing as they had a few before, but they weren't very right because the batteries were very specific. But they were there, and they faded away. But now that we have this, I'm expecting something great out of it. As it's WE, though, I don't trust WE since my M14 exploded. I only bought pistols from them, and I'm very specific about pistols, too. So, I'm curious about it, but I'm not sure if I'd really actually buy the MP5K Apache. The other things I've been watching around for is the ACR by WE, or the MSK. Once again, probably for the licensing that they could not get. But it's another thing I've seen, and I've actually seen a gameplay by Level Cap Gaming, and he did an entire video about it, and people were surprised to actually see it because no one else has really touched on it. The next thing we got right for it is the USAirsoft ARX 160, I believe. Yes, 160. It's in the real steel. The ARX 160 is supposed to be the weapon that's supposed to replace the M4, and the military is touching on it right now. Seeing as it's full ambidextrous, it's great for left and right hand shooters, and they don't have to train lefties to shoot right.
It looks like it's got a lot of elements used in the G36C platform and a lot of the SCAR/ACR platform.
The USAirsoft 160 ARX will use M4 mags, so you don't have to buy any more mags for this, seeing as if you have mags for your M4, it's alright for this. They do have two series that are going to be coming out. They have the full metal version and the competition series. The full metal version is going to be valued at $290, which is a little pricey, but I'm expecting really good things out of this. And the competition series is all plastic, but very lightweight for those people that like to really get out there and rush in gameplay, and that's valued at a more $165 range. So I'm very interested in these new weapons. I'm really wanting to see how these turn out, and I'd be very happy to actually try out one of these.
We also have some channels that we recommend that you go check out, and they are right here.
A few that I would actually recommend for you guys is USAirsoft, which our sponsor, which made this all possible for us and got us everything we needed for us.
Which is the field that we play at.
Our home field. We have Airsoft Medicine, the guys Mark and Larry. They helped us out by giving us all the information we needed to actually make all this possible. We wouldn't have this without them. And you guys help out so much, it is ridiculous. We wouldn't have this without you guys. So thank you guys for everything y'all have done for us. I would recommend Level Cap Gaming also, since if you want to see the MSK or ACR by WE, his gameplay is going to be up. And check us out as much as you want, and subscribe to our channel. Tell us what you like about what you saw today. Comment, like, subscribe, do what y'all want, and make sure to be safe out there while you're gaming.
And have fun.